What would change in the world if you, me, and everyone choose to feed the wolf of possibilities instead of the one of doubt, distrust, and despair? The way I see it, our point of view creates reality, not the other way around. Somewhere deep within, I think we know that. In this podcast, I am daring you to claim this remarkable superpower. Join us and be inspired by trackers, explorers, and finders of possibilities from the multiverse of hope. Welcome to the podcast, Feeding the Wolf of Possibilities, with your host, Katarina Valentin. Welcome to this episode of Feeding the Wolf of Possibilities. And today we're going to explore the possibilities that open up when a woman is willing to own her curvy lines and thoroughly enjoy the voluptuous figure that nature has given her. And as our guide, I've invited Sarah Grandinetti, who continuously inspires me in this area. Her curves can definitely stop traffic.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sarah.
I'm excited to be here. And that was an amazing introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome. So what does curvy mean to you?
Curvy to me is the gift of the shape of our difference. I have a friend who she was judging what her mom would always tell her was her pooch of her tummy. Finally, one day I was just like, can I just share with you what I see when I look at you? And she's like, sure. I was like, that is a curved line that makes you different than everybody else. And if you weren't trying to have what is the right flat stomach, like, could you enjoy the shape? It's really about shape and what sets us all apart, but in the same way creates us as different. I don't know if that makes sense, but not from separation, but from the acknowledgement that our bodies are all so yummy and different.
I like the emphasis on the shape. That is really cool because we tend to focus so much on how we look like, but we tend to focus on how we're supposed to look like or what we learn we should look like to be attractive. But if you really look at the uniqueness of you and you'd like to be you in totality, that shape, like what shape am I truly? Like what shape would my body like to be?
Yeah, absolutely. And the world tells us like what, the hourglass is the right shape, or when big butts came in, it was like the pear shaped was a big thing, like all sorts of different ideology of shape. But the difference, when I look at a body, I get so excited to see the different lines and the curves. Like I'll lay in class and just, watch women's butts go by. You're like, wow, that one curves this way and that one comes out that way. And how cool is it the way that, the clothes play differently on her, and you take a different dress and you put it on a different body, and the clothes are going to move different as that body moves because of the shape that is wearing the clothes.
So have you always had this sense? Like, have you always enjoyed curves? Have you always enjoyed your shape? Or what was it like when you were growing up?
I would say no. Since I was little, I always had a capacity to see beauty in places other people didn't see beauty. And I've acknowledged that more and more over the years with the access tools, because to me, beauty was always that it was different, that it wasn't the same as everything else. And that was always like, whether it's like how I chose a puppy when I was a kid, I was like, but that one, he's so different, or, the way a friend's nose was that was judging their nose, when I'm like, it's so different. That's so cool. I always thought it was really cool. But for myself, I grew up before like curvy bodies were popular or were in. I remember when the actress Jennifer Lopez came on the scene, I was already out of high school, and I was like, I would have been so popular. My body shape would have been, the in thing. And then I had a daughter who grew up, she's now 25, but she had more of a slender shape. And I remember her being like, oh, I wish I looked like you, because my body was more relevant to her era. And what I know now is that like the judgment of beauty is always ever changing. And if you try to follow a trend with your body, you will either be in or you will be out. And truly what the gift is to continue to look for the difference that you be, and the beauty and the like joy of embodiment, really.
Well, one of the things that I really admire about you is your willingness to, I'd say, be seen in the beauty you are. And for me, that is one of the most beautiful parts of you.
Thank you.
The willingness to be seen. So has that been something that kind of came slowly, or did you just like start enjoying being seen with every single curve, every single shape of you?
Well, my body's changed a lot, like over the last few years. Like I dropped a bunch of weight, And what I saw in that era, Kat, was like, I had hit something right. And this like willingness to be seen, it was our bodies facilitate so many things. It's so cool. So it was like all the places where I still wasn't willing to be seen. Now that I had lost all this weight, and I'm talking like 60 pounds, I could be seen. But then as the weight came back on, what I saw was my body was like, okay, we like uncovered that lie. You can choose to be seen regardless. And now I refuse to kind of go back to not being seen or the parts of me that I wanted to hide. And I know my body facilitated that so brilliantly. I call myself, I don't know if this is right for the podcast, you can cut it if not, but I call myself like a lust addict. So I'm like, I really love the energy of creating lust, of receiving lust, and not just for our bodies, but for like being alive and enjoying the embodiment and inviting people to those lustful energies of play and having a body. To me, it's hard to be a lust addict and hide. So I guess that's my point of view.
Well, it's interesting too, because I did recently a podcast with Shannon O'Hara about sex. And one of the things that we talked about was that our bodies love the energy of lust. Yes. And our bodies really thrive on the energy of lust. And the energy of lust also comes if you're willing to receive it. It's very hard to give lust to somebody who kind of puts this wall up and tries to hide in baggy clothes, etc.
Yeah. One of the conversations in the first body whispering class with Dr. Dana here was, we talked about in that class how like lust is there for you, your body at any shape really. But because you have judgment in your world that you're not worthy of said lust, you won't see when it's happening. So it's not that it's not there. It's that you're not willing to acknowledge it or receive it. There are people who lust after all sorts of different bodies. I know is like whatever we judge in ourselves or wherever we won't acknowledge our own beauty is a huge place of where we decide whether we deserve that like attention or that lust or whatever that is. And just to clarify, like one of the things I say about lust in my classes is like lust can lead to sex, but so can lasagna. Okay. So like lust is not about like always about getting you in bed. And sometimes it is, but it's truly about like flowing energy and the energy of being alive in everything that you're creating, whether you're moving your body, dancing, doing a class, wearing something awesome, feeling amazing, exciting people around you. But it doesn't, in that clarity, it doesn't mean that like lust means sex. I guess I wanted to say that.
So here's the thing, what I've been looking at too, I think I had this awareness a few years ago, but it's still so relevant to me. So when I look at my own body and when I judge it, I don't always judge it, but when I do, I judge it according to whatever standards that I decided I should look like in this society or in this country. But when I look at other bodies, I have a completely different sense because I see beauty in whatever size and shape of bodies. And I realized one day that what if other people also do that? It was like this little switch in my head that went, oh, what if other people also actually get attracted to the sense that people being alive, people having that like vibrating joy when they move through life? And that is what is attractive. And if that's attractive to me, what if other people are attractive to that as well and not the perfect, according to the latest fashion magazine, body that you are supposed to have?
Totally. And to also include the men and women who have those perfect bodies, if they're doing it without doing a ton of judgment, and even if they are, it's like, what if we could include those? Because I know like in the beauty classes that I do, a lot of the times it's like, how do I get me, the question that's in the room is like, how do I get me right compared to them? But then the them is sitting there too, being like, hey, I have this body and she's beautiful too. You know what I mean? And it's like, we don't have to do the juxtapose. It's truly when you look, like what you said, like when you look for the difference and the different shapes of bodies, it's like, yeah, some are more lean, some have a little bit more padding, some are tall, some are short. Like how cool is all of that? And when you talk about too, the like flipping that switch of going, okay, what if others are looking and perceiving me the way that I'm willing to perceive others, and allowing that into your world. The other element that you talked about, like the joy and the enthusiasm for being alive. And there's also a nurturance. There's a nurturance energy that is like the sexualness that so many people are attracted to, that we often don't acknowledge that we be with our bodies, that isn't sexuality, that isn't, you know, I have the right, perfect, sexy body energy, but people will be attracted to the fact that they know near your body, they'll be nurtured.
Mm. That's also a very interesting part, because if you look at that, every body is drawn to a different body. Like we all
Mm,
have bodies that we are nurtured by at different moments in life, at different
yeah.
moments in time. And we know that we want to be close to those bodies, those people. So that's actually part of that, where again, as long as we go for the perfect shape, whatever we decide that is, we will miss the whole part where we're actually attracted to exactly the energy of a body that we require and desire and can enjoy in that moment.
It's so true. And I think too, acknowledging that you might have like a preference, but not turning the preference into a judgment is another fun thing to look at
Mm,
too. Cause, you know, like you said, you'll miss so many possibilities if you just open up. And I know like Dane has said this in classes too, is like, you know, and Gary Douglas of Access Consciousness, like look around the room and look at the bodies you think you're attracted to, and then look at the energies and just ask to be more aware of like what you're navigating towards, because we are so inundated, and the beauty industry has inundated us. This reality has inundated us with the eyes of judgment. And when you start to
mm.
take them off, there's so many more possibilities there that include you, don't exclude you.
And it's funny, one of Gary's favorite questions with bodies is that look around you and see if you would like to swap body with anyone
Mm,
in this room. And it's so interesting because you'd think with all the judgment we tend to do with our bodies, we would immediately find, you know, two, three bodies that we would easily swap with. And most of the time, you can't find a single body in that room that you would prefer to have over your own. And if you
mm,
listen to this, you could actually try right now. Like you could just kind of choose some kind of group of people and see if you would like to swap body with any of them.
mm.
Like really look at it. Would I swap this body of mine that I'm currently experiencing the world through for another body? And if you don't, what if we could start to fully enjoy the sensory organism that we've been given? So it goes back to that when we started with the curves, and you said like you really enjoy lust, which really is the energy of being alive and coming alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more that I see people step out of the point of view that they don't deserve lust, like I had this program with, and I've done it a few times now, with women where lust gets really explored, and watching these women shift into, okay, I'm going to change my point of view about the lust that's like in the air, like that I have to avoid. And then they start to include that some of it might actually be flowing their way. But then what happens is their bodies become so alive. And the feedback that I've gotten of like them actually perceiving their body in a way that they never have. But again, not from, I need to use this thing I called lust in order to get a man or get a this or get a that, like that they just get to enjoy being alive and the way that their bodies contribute to other bodies. It's really beautiful. So if we stopped avoiding so much or justifying whether we deserve it today or we don't. I have a really funny story recently. I went out of the house, my hair was like a mane. I had no makeup on. And in this reality standards, I probably had no business even going outside that day. And I went into this store, and this man just like that worked at the store was just like falling over himself for me. And I was like, is he looking at me? And I had all of my stuff up because I didn't deserve less that day either. And he was like, you have such a beautiful smile. And I was like, wow, thank you. And then he contributed to me throughout the store. He worked there. He helped me check out. And then I went back like 2 days ago and I got a drink and I sipped it, and I was in line, and he goes, oh, it's you. Hi. And then I sipped the drink and I was like, oh, I got the wrong one. He's like, go get a different one. I'll take care of you. But it was this like beautiful exchange. He didn't ask for my number or chase me down to my car or anything. It was just, I had to fully even step even more into like a body that is alive, that is lustful and thriving, lights up other bodies. And it doesn't have to mean anything. It can just be a gift the gift that it is, and the gift that you are when you are excited to be alive.
So if someone who's listening to this right now and they're like, I'd like to get there, I'd like to get to that space where I'm willing to receive lust and be that lightning beacon with my willingness to actually come alive, what would you suggest that they start with?
One of the things that contributes a lot is to start actually seeing you. We are on such autopilot with our bodies. And so much of the things that we create with our bodies are like, who's going to judge us as right or wrong? And we don't see ourselves anymore. And I remember, like, I do makeup maybe 75% of days because I am a beauty industry professional and that's what my life was like. Or I'm on Zooms or calls now. And so, but I realized one day that I was sitting there putting on my makeup and I was like, I haven't even looked at me yet. I haven't even acknowledged my body or looked at my eyes that I am this close to the mirror trying to like line with eyeliner and put mascara on, but I haven't even seen me today. So a really great place to start is to start with like 30 seconds, maybe go to a minute, 2 minutes, be with yourself in a mirror every day. I still do it to this day. Like I do it when I'm brushing my teeth. Before I even start my makeup, I go, hi body. And I look in my own eyes and I acknowledge my beauty before I start. And it changes just how I be with my body and how I be with my beauty. So you can take a few minutes every day. And then I would say the next thing is like anything that you see that you judge, use the interesting point of view tool. So if it's my hair looks like this today, or I'm not feeling beautiful, or, you know, whatever it is for you today, or it could be a part of your body that you judge, and just look at that thing and go, allow all the energy of that judgment to come up. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view, until it starts to dissipate. And do that as many times as you can until you truly are an interesting point of view about your shape and your curves and your beautiful body. And it starts to just give you a different way to walk in the world. And then ask to lower your walls and barriers every day and perceive, even if for a nanosecond to start, the less that actually is there for you and your body.
Mm-hmm. So it's not a purple pill they can eat.
No, it's a choice and a demand, I would say, because I still judge my body. Maybe not every day, but lots of days. And it's definitely like a choice and a demand to be like, no, you know, this is the friend I've had since day one, since my first breath. She's been there with everything, through everything. The great times, the crappy times. She's walked every step I've ever walked. She's sat in every seat with me I've ever sat in. She's been in every relationship, every bed. She's been there for me from day one. And I'm going to judge her for what reason against someone else. So to me, getting to that place of that like gratitude for my body allows me to then go, okay, I'm like, judgment is not what I'm choosing. Not what I'm choosing today. So what else?
Which is a really big demand in the world we're living in. It's nearly like a provocative demand because you're doing something that you're not supposed to do. You're actually grateful for you exactly as you are right now.
So true. Yeah. Yeah. And the demand part, I think that somewhere, like you said, the purple pill thing, which is really cool, but a lot of us think that someday we're going to wake up and just not be aware anymore. And because a lot of the judgment that I'm aware of, a lot of the time isn't even mine, of my body. I'm aware of so if I ever thought that I was never going to judge my body ever again, at this point, speaking from my interesting point of view, I don't know if that's possible as much as what's possible is for me to know that I don't have to choose it and create from it and make it mine. Because I will be going, I mean, I did a woman's class a few years ago live, and I woke up in such a crazy place one morning of like so much judgment that I like didn't even want to get dressed. I was like the ugliest thing that ever walked. It was so intense. But I remember like going, wow, I'm never going to not be aware of people who don't think they're beautiful or aren't willing to acknowledge their beauty. Like that's actually a gift that I be if I'm willing to acknowledge it, ask for it to change, be the filtering system with my return to sender that adds consciousness to it as it goes back to them. What if that's the gift I be by never taking it in as mine and my judgment of my body? So I was like, okay, universe, I'm here for that. What else? But it doesn't mean that there aren't days that I'm like, it's just being the demand and the and moving it through.
Thank you. And thank you so much for coming on talking about this. If somebody wants to explore this particular way of being in the world that you're giving us a taste of, where can they find more info about your courses?
Yeah, sarahgrandinetti.com. We have Being You Beauty classes pop up from time to time. I think there's some in my shop. But if not, you can look there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, Feeding the Wolf of Possibilities. I hope you have more space in your world now. If you would like to listen to earlier episodes, share with other people, or subscribe, please go to Spotify, iTunes, or visit katrinavalentin.com/wolf.